For millions of years, life on the greater sphere has been shaped by the biological processes of the worldly entity. Evidence of its influence can be seen in just about every corner of the planet and in every aspect of its ecosystem. From the constant influx of minerals that fuel the production of nutrient-rich resources, to the dense overgrowth that make up the majority of the planet's landmasses. Even the very waters, through which all life sustains. But this is only half of the story, for beyond what our eyes can see lies a hidden expanse generated by the entity, extending its reach to astronomical proportions. What is the purpose of this phenomenon, and what effects has it had in the development of life across the spheres? To begin answering these questions, we'll be examining the history of one of the most adaptable animals that had ever emerged from the overgrowth, the lineage known as the Ziribahli. The southern peninsula of Dargao is a land constantly on the brink of change. The spires which have stood here for countless eons and have continually provided the region with precious minerals have reached the end of their life cycle. As their enormous tendrils plummet to the ground, wide stretches of the overgrowth deteriorate and collapse into the ocean, reducing the peninsula into a vast floodplain in the north and a collection of islands further south. This transformation drove countless species to extinction, including many of the Stridera-forms that had dominated the overgrowth. As the spires begin anew, scores of Satrosha and water-processing organisms congregate along the newly formed roots of the entity, converting its mineral-rich byproduct into a viable food source once again. Enter the Ziribahli. Believed to have formerly been small semi-terrestrial omnivores, they have now fully adapted to life above the water, taking advantage of the flourishing population of Satrosha and the water-processing organisms they host. Here, in the flooded north, live a wide variety of these Satrosha specialists. Perhaps the most notable, certainly the most well-documented example among them, are the Ziri-Vanu. Standing nearly 5 meters tall and weighing upwards of 6 tons, they are some of the largest species of Ziribahli that had ever lived. This pair, Arjhan and Karakoa, named after the mythical colossi of Karakoa folklore, have come here in these shallow pools to feast on the cyclical blooms of Satrosha and to raise the next generation of Ziri-Vanu. Although there is plenty to go around, members of their species tend to claim a number of pools as part of their territory, while many others, especially younger individuals, simply roam and feed along the outskirts. Over the course of the bloom, claimants will be challenged by other families and individuals, typically involving a tussle between two dominant males, where the victor is often decided after one of the participants manages to submerge the head of their opponent in water. This bull, Arjhan, has just come out the victor of such a battle, successfully defending his claim for the 11th time since the beginning of the bloom. A feat that has given his partner the comfort needed to lay a new clutch of eggs and the time it takes for them to hatch. If he is to continue this streak, he must regain his strength. He takes his turn on the feast, picking a spot in the pool before gorging on the abundant Satrosha. But this moment of respite brings opportunity to predators. A Spectralisk, one of the few species of Stridera form that still prowl the region. This individual is a female, a little over a year into her adult stage. Already, deep scars run the length of her carapace, and 2 of her 8 limbs appear to have been severed. With these injuries, tackling the Ziri-Vanu could very well prove fatal. But today, she is not alone. 2 more Spectralisks appear by her side. A much older, equally battle-scarred male, and a subadult female, likely his offspring. While not particularly graced with good eyesight, The Ziri-Vanu have specialized tendrils that tune in on the currents of the phase expanse. This adaptation has made the Ziribahli lineage uniquely adept at picking up movement in their surroundings, with some estimates reaching as far as 15 to 20 meters, and possibly more. This bull, however, is preoccupied. The Spectralisks begin their approach, stepping back and forth along with the currents to conceal their movements, though it will not hide them for long. Arjhan cranes his head. The hunters freeze, suspending their legs mid-gait. A low droning chirp begins to emanate from the Ziri-Vanu, perhaps a signal to his mate. After a brief pause, he returns to his feast, chucking a mouthful of Satrosha into his gaping maw. Time is of the essence for these hunters. If they are to succeed, they must choose a target soon. Hatchlings would make for easy prey, though the hunters know well enough to avoid them. Routine feedings of the toxic portions of Satrosha, discarded by their parents, have made these little ones incredibly poisonous to any predator that would make the unfortunate mistake of eating them. Doing so would cause severe disorientation, vomiting, and in extreme cases, sterility. The hunters, instead, set their gaze upon the more vulnerable members of the family. Juveniles, 2 to be exact. At 6 years old, they are all that remain of the pair's previous clutch. With lower levels of toxicity compared to hatchlings, and significantly less armor than adults, they make for the ideal prey to Spectralisks. The hunters burst from the thicket of Satrosha, swift frames cutting through water and foliage. Arjhan is instantly alerted. Lunging forward, he bares his clawed arms open, ready to come crushing down on the assailants. The subadult Spectralisk leaps out of harm's way, as the others charge past the attack. The hatchlings scatter and vanish among the Satrosha, while the juveniles stick closely to their mother, who was indeed alerted by her mate. She stomps ground and water, swiping at the approaching Spectralisks, narrowly missing the older male by the abdomen. The female shifts her direction and launches her serrated arms towards the juveniles, catching one by the tail. It screams. She drags it across the pool and prepares to land a killing stab with her razor-like beak, but Arjhan is already a striking distance away. The Spectralisk scrambles, putting distance between her and the Ziri-Vanu. Having circled around the family, the subadult attacks from behind, landing a hit on the back of the second juvenile. But Karakoa promptly pummels the young Spectralisk. Its thoracic carapace buckles from the sheer force of the impact, causing it to let go of the juvenile. The older male attacks Karakoa, wounding her neck with his beak. He continues, aiming for the Ziri-Vanu's eyes, though her jaw appendages had instinctively covered them already. Seeing his mate wounded, Arjhan charges, letting out a mighty roar as his arms swing down on the Spectralisk, pulling and slamming it to the ground. Though it recovers quickly, it decides to flee. Their hunt has failed. Although unfortunate, in these abundant times, an opportunity is bound to present itself again. For now, the hunters turn tail and lick their wounds. Victorious, the Ziri-Vanu pair collect themselves and make count of their brood. Relief. Their young are safe. Hurt as they may be, they stand a strong chance of surviving through this ordeal. Moments and interactions such as these would play out for the remainder of this cyclical bloom, the one after, the next, until the very end of the era, when the entity, once again, turns a page in the chapter of its life. In the beginning of the Spire events, 5 million years ago,